What am I doing? Hi friends, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel. So today I am bringing you my November and December wrap up. So I read 6 books over the last 2 months and I'm honestly proud of that. I know on BookTube everyone's always raving about how many books they read, but honestly I have so little time to actually just sit down and read. I'm proud of every book that I accomplished, and so yeah, it's fine. And hey, it means better detailed wrap-ups for you guys because I don't read as many books. So you know what, let's just jump right into it with what I read in November. So the first book I read in November was Kindred by Octavia E. Butler, and this was for my creative writing class. And I honestly loved this book so much more. I didn't know what I was getting into when I read it, and I just loved it. It blew me away. I gave it 4.75 stars, and I have never given that rating before, so yeah, it earned it. So Kindred is about a black woman from 1976 who, on her 26th birthday, uncontrollably starts to travel through time to the antebellum South, where she has to keep saving a plantation owner's son who may or may not be her great-great-great-grandfather. And you can kind of see where this goes. And she gets stuck there uncontrollably, and it turns out she can only travel back if her life is in danger, which does not happen as often as she would think it would in that time period. So she is stuck playing a slave and being part of that time period until she has the ability to travel home. So this book was so thought-provoking, and it just stayed on my mind even when I wasn't reading it. It raised questions about time periods and what our environment does to us and how we would fit into a different time period where we are forced to do things totally against our morals. However, how well would we adapt to it? And this book just stayed on my mind, and it was so good, you guys. I highly recommend this if you like time travel and early science fiction and historical fiction. It was just so good, you guys. And now the second book I finished in November, to the great relief of me and all my friends because they kept pushing me to read this book, and that was Majesty, the conclusion of the American Royals duology. And you guys, my ships did a 180. I had a reading vlog where I read this, and I will link that down below, but oh my gosh, my ships did a 180 and I'm not even mad about it. Because Katharine McGee writes such compelling ships, and my taste changed without me even realizing it, and it's so good, you guys. Also, the character development of this book, like Samantha and Nina and Ethan and Beatrice, oh my gosh, Beatrice. You guys, the characters in this book are amazing. I highly recommend, if you like fast-paced reads that kind of read like soap opera TV, I highly recommend this series. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so much fun. I have not had this much fun reading a book series in a long time. So this book is the continuation of American Royals, in which George Washington took a crown instead of a presidency, and now 200 years later, Beatrice Washington is the first queen America is ever going to have, and it follows her and her siblings and the drama they ensue with their friendships and relationships, and underneath a plot by someone within the family's close circle who is trying to undermine and make herself part of the royal family. And it's so good, you guys. It has you on the edge of your seat. I love it. And before I stop talking about it, I just want to say, poor clueless Jeff. And if you've read this, you know why. But yes, I gave this a 4.5 star, and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I cannot recommend American Royals enough. Now, this next book, which is the beginning of December, I read this in 2 days, so hey, go me. But this was for my creative writing class as well, and this is my first ever graphic novel, and that is 100 Demons by Lynda Barry. This is part memoir, part fiction, and what's what is for you to decide. And this book was super good. I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I would. Lynda Barry has such amazing details in her drawings, and she just tells a whole story from these drawings that have a whole side plot to what is being said. And this is unlike a memoir I've ever read, but I enjoyed it. So if you like graphic novels and memoirs, I recommend this. It was a fun time, and I didn't rank it because I feel weird ranking memoirs because that's someone's life they put out there. So no rating on this book, but I did have a fun time reading it, and I got a lot out of it. So yeah. And now these last 3 books I read in December all made my top 10 of 2020 list, and 2 of them were anticipated releases, so that was a lot of fun and good for me. And the first one is Seasons of the Storm by Elle Cosimano. I feel like I've mentioned this book a lot lately, but that is for such a good reason. I never hear anyone talking about this book, and it was honestly so good. The found family in this book is immaculate. I have not read a better found family in a long time. The characters just came together in such a raw and great way, and there's a fantasy road trip going on. Like, I didn't know that was a thing I wanted until I read this book, and now I am searching desperately for more fantasy road trip books. So if you have one, let me know. And also, the elemental magic in this book is so cool. And the characters are great, and I just love this book. It was such a cool plotline too, so I highly recommend. I gave this a 4.5, and it was so much fun. So Seasons of the Storm is about our seasons personified, and when they are on their deathbed, Gia, a magical controller, she gives them the choice to either die as they are, or to live forever following her rules and be stuck in a cycle. And most people choose to live as one would. So our main character is Jack, who is a winter, and he has fallen in love with a spring named Fleur, and that is a giant no-no because the season coming must kill the season that came before it so the cycle can continue, and if not, there are bad consequences that could end up with both being killed in this purge. And Fleur is already at the edge of her purge because she has fallen in love with Jack, and she has let him live longer than he should in every time. And in this world, all the seasons are competing against each other in kind of a Hunger Games-esque way. And that was really cool to read. That was actually really cool. I wasn't expecting that, but I loved it. So Jack has now devised a plan to save Fleur by breaking out of this impossible fortress that they live in with the help of Julio and Amber, who in his rotation are summer and fall. And they also are in a forbidden relationship of sorts because they are also in love. So they agree. They end up breaking out and going on this high stakes, almost impossible to succeed road trip across the country to try to escape. And from this, a lot of plot unfolds and big scenes, and it was just so cool. And in this book, springs can control plants and plant growth, falls can control fire, summers water, and winters ice, and they kind of mist over. And it's a really cool elemental magic system, and I'm going to stop talking now, but I loved this book, and I will highly recommend it to all of you. And now, this next book, I gave 5 stars. I don't know why I put it off, because honestly, everything about it was right up my alley, but for some reason, I kept putting it off. But that is Geekerella, which is a Comic-Con-esque cosplay Cinderella retelling. What more could I want? Like, oh my gosh. So in this book, Ella is living with her evil stepmother and her awful stepsisters. However, she is obsessed with the show that is kind of like a mixture of Star Trek and Star Wars that her father and mother were obsessed with and became Legends and Exclusicon, which is Comic-Con, but for this universe. And so she is working this job, and she's just trying to survive until she can get out. And now this TV show they were obsessed with is being rebooted into a movie, and her worst possible choice is going to play the male lead, and now flip, Darian, who is said chosen actor to play male lead, is obsessed with this show as well. However, his father/manager has said that if he shows that he loves it, his popularity would go down. And personally, that makes no sense to me. If someone in my favorite show reboot said they were into it too, I would love them. I would stan them. So whatever, flawed logic on his part, personally. And somehow he and Ella end up in this texting conversation where they fall in love with each other over text. However, neither knows who the other is. And it's just so much fun, and all the Cinderella parallels are there and done so well, and I flew through this book. I read it in 2 sittings, and that's unheard of for me. 5 stars. I loved it. It was so cute, and it's so worth the read. I highly recommend it. And now my last book of 2020 that made it into the top 5. I finished it on December 31st. And it was my most anticipated release of 2020. That is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Everything about this book is worth the hype. 5 stars. Brilliant characters, brilliant plot, brilliant angsty relationship, and the concepts were mind-blowing. And this world is just so immersive, and Chloe Gong has such a cool writing style that at first I was iffy about, but I fell in love with it and flew through this book. Go pick it up if you haven't already. It's worth it. And Chloe Gong also brings in colonization and westernizing Eastern cultures, and it's just so good. And as retellings go, she stuck with the original plots of Romeo and Juliet and just made them amazing. So These Are the Lights, in case you have not heard yet, is a 1920s Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai between heirs of rival gangs, and there is a fantastic element thrown in there where a monster is killing members of both these gangs as well as most of the city of Shanghai. So now it is up to these two to figure out what's going on. And it was such a fun time. I loved it. Juliet is awesome. Roma is a secret softie. It was just so amazing, you guys. I cannot recommend this enough. Go check it out. It's worth it. And those are the 6 books I read in November and December. Let me know in the comments below what books you've read over these last 2 months that you absolutely loved. I would love to hear. If you want to see more of me, my social medias are linked below. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you. And until next time, I'm Kay. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!